So I'm really excited to be here and just tell you a little bit about myself. There you see me as a first-year student in 1988. So and here I am a few years ago. So I'm a professor in the School of Social Work and Behavioral Sciences. I'm born and raised in the city of Springfield. I was an administrator at another institution, Smith College School for Social Work, and also as an elementary school principal here in the city. I've been a long-term school social worker in the community, and again, born and raised in Springfield. My wife, Renee, married for 24 years, have a daughter who's a first-year student at Bay Path University, and another daughter who is a 7th grader. A current interest, I like to do a lot of work with healthy masculinity, working with youth, and also do a lot of work and workshops on this particular topic on self-care, but also on youth development, healthy masculinity, and working with young men. And so I'm really excited to be here. And let's just jump right in. So the overview for today is that we're all contributors, and I'm going to ask each of us to participate by writing your thoughts, comments, and ideas in the chat. So there'll be opportunities for us all to participate. And we're living through this pandemic, this racial unrest, the trauma of this global pandemic, the trauma of the racial unrest going on. So a very important question is, how do we take care of ourselves? How do we heal from all that is going on physically, socially, and emotional stressors that we are a part of? So that's the goal for today, for us to really talk about, to breathe, and to really just sort of think about how we can be whole and how we can heal from all the stressors and challenges that we're facing. I understand that for students, this is like midterms. In the middle, I ask students, and I always share this slide, and it's all about, how you're feeling. So I just wanted to just check in. How's everybody doing? How you coping? Everything going on, be it finals, be it everything that you're confronting. So just write that into the chat. And I'm so happy to have Danielle and Janaea. So Janaea, thank you. If you can just sort of go through the chat and just give me a couple of words on how people are doing, how they're coping, that would be helpful.
All right, so I see exhausted, pushing through it, stressed, tired. It's really, really hard. Tired, stressed, worried. So I think everybody's kind of feeling the same or on the same page, like how they're feeling, stressed and tired.
All right. So I think this is an opportunity for us to walk away feeling a little lighter and really focusing in on how do we sort of heal. So it's very important for us to think about the title and the significance of the title of promoting peace, hope, and healing. And instead of moving from this and just surviving and just being tired and exhausted and flustered and frustrated and really anxious when we think about what's going on, is to really think about how can we thrive even in such a time as this. So I just want to ask you all, Janaea, I'm putting you to work here. When we look at this title, promoting peace, hope, and healing, what does peace, what does hope, what does healing look like for you? And as you're writing, Fannie Lou Hamer talks about, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. So we have to move past surviving, and how do we thrive in such a time as this? I also want you to think about, how can you be grateful? I know that now, even in the midst of all the things that we've experienced, I know that now you don't take anything for granted. So the seemingly small things really mean a lot. Janaea, I'm putting you to work. What do you have for me?
Peace is a sense of calm, finding the good things during the bad. Unity, reciprocity, how do you say that? reciprocity.
Reciprocity.
Reciprocity. Okay. And authenticity.
Yes.
On each other. Peace. A lack of chaos. Centering. Democratic sweep up and down. Ballot. Peace and calm. Hope for me means looking forward to a better tomorrow.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So the issue of really, I like Marian Wright Edelman. She talks about making this world a better place than you found it. So what's your legacy? You know, what's your legacy in this issue of you owe somebody? You know, so how can I really make this world a better place than I find it? We know that there is a date of living, a date of birth, and then we know that we're all not going to live together. That we're all going to leave this earth. We all won't live together, but right in between the date of birth and our date of expiration, there's a dash. And it's very, even in times like this, we have to ask ourselves, what legacy am I creating? So really focusing on peace, hope, healing, moving past survival, and how do we thrive? How do we thrive? I really like, I showed you Springfield College, Humanics. I've never been to a place where I've seen so many triangles in all my life. So when you think about spirit, mind, and body, we think about diversity, we think about equity, we think about inclusion, and we know that difference does not mean deficient. So I just want to just share one clip, and then I'm just going to really zone in on strategy. So I have one clip. You may have seen this. This is someone who I respect and admire greatly. Her name is Jane Elliott, and she started this brown-eyed, you may have heard of it, blue-eyed experiment many years ago, and it was after the assassination. I believe she was a third-grade teacher. It was after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King. So this famous exercise, and I don't know how many people in my class, but I shared this with my first-year seminar class, in this issue of this anti-Black racism that we're experiencing now. So I'm really talking to all of us, but also particularly for Latinx, BIPOC students, African American, how do we heal? White students, how do we heal with all of the turmoil, all of the tension, all of the stress, all of the chaos that we're experiencing right now? So I'm going to stop my share. First, let me click on this. And then stop my share. All right, hold on one second here. I'm right with you. All right. All right, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Awesome.
I want every white person in this room who would be happy to be treated as this society in general treats our citizens, our Black citizens. If you, as a white person, would be happy to receive the same treatment that our Black citizens do in this society, please stand. You didn't understand the directions. If you white folks want to be treated the way Blacks are in this society, stand. Nobody's standing here. That says very plainly that you know what's happening. I know you don't want it for you. I want to know why you're so willing to accept it or to allow it to happen for others.
All right. So now what I would like to just ask, how did that, anyone want to talk about what resonated with them? You can put that in the chat, or you can just unmute yourselves. And what did you think of Jane Elliott and that exercise that she did? Let's take a few moments. Not all at one time, please. I can't take it.
I guess that's Dr.
Hey, does that sound like Marcel?
Nah, that's
Oh, Chris, you guys work together so well. Hey, Chris, how you doing? Good to see you, man.
Yeah, no problem. Good to see you too, man. I guess I would just say that I've seen that video a couple times, and it's always amazing to me that no one in the room said that they would, or even stood up to say, you know, we're treated equally. Like, I wonder, like, what's the back, like, who was in that room?
Yeah.
'Cause I feel like generally a room of white people, someone would say, no, you know, we get treated equally, and or even say like black people have privilege. So each time I watch that video, I think about, I wonder what that classroom was. Was it like a social justice or something like that? I always wonder that.
Yeah, interesting, interesting. So, Chris, thank you for kicking us off this issue of I don't see color. I'm colorblind, you know, and I get it, right? You know, Dr. King talks about people should be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. But when you say I'm colorblind, you know, do you not see color? I'm an African American male. So if you're saying you're colorblind, you don't see me, that's a very central part of who I am, a central part of my identity. So this issue of being colorblind or saying black people, as Chris said, you know, have privileges and affirmative action and what have you know, this video was very telling. And then what you have to also think about the invisibility. You know, in first year seminar class, we're talking about the 1619 project. So the invisibility of BIPOC people, but also the hypervisibility as well. So thank you. Put your comments in the chat, and we'll have more opportunities to chat. But today, instead of digging in deep into what the problems are, I really want us to focus in on how can we heal? How can we move forward? How can we just not survive, but and be tired and sick and tired of being sick and tired, but how can we heal? So I want to just really come up with some strategies that I hope will be helpful, because right now it's very heavy. It's very heavy with COVID-19. It's very heavy with the anxiety of this election. So everything is going on right now. So I really want to make sure we center time to really figure out how can we sort of thrive instead of just going through the day to day. I don't know about you. I know I have a lot of students on, but I see some folks in my generation. There was an old commercial, a Dunkin' Donuts commercial, and the guy would be like, "Time to make the donuts." You know, so he'd wake up, time to make the donuts. See, I see you, John Sapor. John Sapor, he knows what I'm talking about. But the issue is, we just can't just go through the day just doing the same old thing. But how do we sort of relate on purpose, with intentionality, and not just make assumptions that everything will be okay or everything will be all right. So let's go back. That's Jane Elliott, and I'm going to allow some time at the end for question and answer. I love this quote here. I'm a quote guy, and Sonia Renee Taylor talks about, we will not go back to normal. Normal never was. So folks are saying, I can't wait to get back to normal, but normal never was. Our pre-corona experience was not normal, other than we normalized greed, inequity, exhaustion, depletion, extraction, disconnection, confusion, rage, hoarding, hate, and lack. We should not long to return, my friends. We are being given the opportunity to stitch a new garment, one that fits all of humanity and nature. So I don't know about you. I teach a first year seminar class, and I'm really impressed with this younger generation of really learning about what's going on, not only politically, but also with the racial unrest. And young people, when you think about the marches, young people, even when you think about Chris Rim, the MOE, SSBD, and the young activism that's going on at Springfield College, I'm really, really hopeful that a new garment will be stitched. There's a great book. Excuse me. Also, what I'd like to say also is that I'm just so happy that there's over 64 of you here who took time out of your schedule and really are looking at how can we come together. It seems like our nation is falling apart at the seams. How can we come together? How can we show respect? How can we affirm the dignity in others? So we realize that going back to normal, what does that mean? in the old normal. We can long for the good old days, but we have to recognize that the good old days weren't good for everyone. So the status quo was not serving all individuals equally or fairly, and we need to speak out. We cannot be silent, and more importantly, we have to take care of ourselves. I really like this book by Wes Moore, and yes, people are a product of their environment, but I believe in working with young people that people will rise to the level of expectations. So you get what you expect, you get what you respect, and also in this data-driven world, you get what you inspect. So it's very stressful right now, and we have to really center and prioritize how do we take care of ourselves. Whenever you go on the plane, it talks about putting your own oxygen mask on first. And I want to speak to the ladies, and the moms out there who take care of everyone. But guess what? You better not get sick, because who is going to take care of you? So it's not selfish to engage in self-care. As students right now, it's very important. I know you got exams. I know you're trying to get this degree. But how do you take care of yourself? How do you deal with stress? How do you deal with the pressures? And we know that this COVID is not just impacting, and racial unrest is not just impacting the adults, but it's also impacting the children as well. So when you look at this, again, here's your time to put in the chat, into the chat, what word sticks out for you when you hear about the trauma of COVID-19, the racial unrest that's going on. Again, all the Zoom sessions, the children, and we know that education is more than just academics, but there's social advantages of education as well. And what you're finding is that this is really having an impact on children, adolescents, and also college students as well. So when you look at this slide here, what sort of sticks out for you when you're looking at this slide on trauma?
You think you could put your slides in present mode? Because it's kind of small to see.
Oh, okay. I'm on present mode for me, but let me see what I can do. Oh, I'm on. I'm looking at my notes as well, so I'll see. Yes, I can do that.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yes.
All right, Janaea, help me out. What are you seeing there? What's standing out?
Numbing.
Janaea, I might keep you in class with me too. I don't know. I like this idea.
Numbing, emotional overwhelm, panic attacks, hopelessness, chronic pain, hopelessness, numbing, emotional overwhelm. A lot of overwhelm and emotional overwhelm.
Yeah.
Panic attacks. Yeah. Prayer.
So when you think about this, and all of these issues going on, I think Dr. Calvin Hill, I'm the other Dr. Hill on campus. Dr. Calvin Hill was talking about the impact of the first year students in 2020 in graduation, and then turning around. So you all first year students and everyone is impacted, but my goodness, this isn't the world that we anticipated. So really. Sort of grieving, and it's not necessarily traumatic events of being in a car accident or being abused or anything along those lines, but also the trauma of the loss of routines, of patterns. If you know anything about me, Doctor, I love to eat. So not being able to go to the restaurants. I like to spend time at Six Flags. So going past to Connecticut line and where I normally get off in Agawam and go to Six Flags. So that has been raised a level of uncertainty, of anxiety, of cabin fever. So dealing with all of these things is very vital. I want to show another clip here, and I just want you to think about this. And I really applaud the institution. We had these talks over the summer. So with President Cooper, the leadership team, of really looking at, okay, you know, we aren't perfect. We've, you know, there's racial unrest. It impacts all of us. But this issue of how can we be a more inclusive a school environment where everyone feels affirmed. So I want to share this video clip. I have to stop my share here. And I just want you to think about microaggressions. This is by Procter & Gamble. They also have one called The Talk. So with The Talk, what you are dealing with is looking at, I'm just trying to get this link working here, is how do Black and brown folks stay safe in their encounters with police? So we think about police to protect and serve. Well, that might be the case in some communities, but in communities of color, they might see them as a force, an invading force, or someone that you'd have to run from. So I want you to think about this, and I'm really glad to have these talks and have this conversation. Here is something called The Look, really looking at microaggressions. You may have seen this. This is very surfacing a great deal, but I also want to share this with you as well. Excuse me. I'm sorry, technical difficulties here. Hold on one second.
No worries, Dr. Hill.
Thank you, thank you. I see President Cooper came on. She just got me nervous and a little flustered here. So, you know, that's what happened. Just joke, President Cooper. I had to lessen my anxiety, so I had to say that. All right. Here we go. Can you see it? Can you see it, hear it?
Yep.
Awesome. All right. So, any comments, any thoughts?
I've seen it before. It still blows me away. It still almost brings me to tears to see it.
Thank you, John.
I got the goosebumps, not gonna lie.
Thank you, Nicole. Has anyone ever seen this before? I know John said he's seen it before. Yeah, so very powerful clip, really talking about microaggressions. And when you think about microaggressions, there aren't so micro. You know, think about the impact of not feeling as though that you're competent, or people looking down upon you or thinking you're less smart, or, so categorizing you, making assumptions about you, and not even knowing you. So this issue of microaggressions, these daily attacks, these daily assaults that occur, and think about this over time, year after year, month after month, so thank you.
Before you move on, can you send the link in the chat to the video that you just played? People are asking for it.
Janaya, I'm going to ask you just to look up The Look on YouTube, and it'll come right up, Procter & Gamble, and you can put that in the link for me.
Oh, wait, I think David just did it.
Awesome.
Is
Thank
that
you.
the link, David? Okay, thank you.
Awesome. All right. Good to see Coach Mike here. How you doing? All right, so we're going to continue. Let's see here. So when you think about that, the look, and here you think of this mom, it was a good idea to get on that roller coaster and think about the impact of being on that roller coaster. But thank God for mom and grandmoms, she's still going to protect her baby. She got her eyes closed, but, so really, even when you think about this trauma of racism, how do we sort of heal and let our young people know that they're loved, that there's concern, that there's hope for a better tomorrow. So I just want to just continue. I want to get to strategies if I can. And all of this stuff, all of this trauma of COVID, of racism, of anxiety, of this seems like instead of growing closer together, seems like the bonds of our society are weakening. So it has an impact on us. All right, so many of you young people don't know who this is, but this is Herman Monster. So we are dealing with monsters. This was a famous show several decades ago. So we're dealing with monsters. And if I had you in person, I'd ask you what the monsters are that youth have to confront today, that adults have to confront today. But in interest of time and want to get to your questions, these are a lot of monsters that we have to deal with. So I won't insult you by reading those, but in listed here, you don't even see COVID and the impact of COVID, So these are monsters that folks deal with on an ongoing basis: lack of resources, healthcare, a lack of jobs, violence in the neighborhoods, the impact of trauma, inadequate housing, food insecurity, just to name a few. I just wanted to share that I live in the community, and people were just so proud of Springfield College to come forward with that food drive. People really talked to several folks in the community. So that was just one way of Springfield College living out its Humanics philosophy. We're also dealing with the monster and trauma of COVID-19 and the monster and trauma of systemic racism. We talked earlier about put your own oxygen mask on. Here is from philosopher Fred Nietzsche, and he talks about beware that when fighting monsters, you yourself do not become a monster. For when you gaze long into the abyss gazes also into you. So I am a social work professor, and when I talk to my social work students, I talk to them about how do you deal with the pain. So the importance of engaging in self-care, of activities that will allow you to renew, refresh, and be rejuvenated. And it doesn't cost you a lot, And some students say, well, I believe in retail therapy, but it shouldn't cost you a lot, So keep that in mind. Before we get to strategies, I just want to share some information. You may have seen this as well. Looking at equality, giving everyone the same. Equity is giving people what they need. And then there is reality. Some people have more than enough. And you think about this generationally as well. And then you have some people, guess what? They're not even above ground. They're underground. So think about families and generational dynamics going on. So we have equality, giving everyone the same. Equity, giving people what they need. So equality, giving everyone a shoe, Equity is giving everyone a shoe that fits, a shoe that is the right size. So then we have equality, equity, we talked about reality, and then we have liberation. And liberation is, how do we tear down the barriers? So that's very interesting to think about. You know, when you think about access, you think about equity, think about diversity and inclusion. How do we tear down the barriers that are very divisive? Also, what I want to talk about, and here's where you come in, we have liberation, equality, equity, but guess what? People are watching the game, but how do we get folks into this game of life? At minimum, how do we get people at least in the seats? They're standing watching. So what I'd like for you to do now in the chat is to put in, we have equality, we have equity, you see liberation, but what else should we focus on? What other areas that we should concentrate on? So some people might say we need social justice. Some people might say we need restorative justice. Some people might say access, resources. So Janae, I'm really working you today. I like this. Put into the chat, what else could be in that fourth box?
Community. I think she meant access. Interesting that it keeps going up. Okay. Interesting that the wall is the metaphor here. We've been dealing with this for almost 4 years. Opportunity, education, resources, access, accountability, opportunity, reallocation of resources, reparations, perspective, compassion, reparations.
Awesome, awesome. That's a very astute comment talking about walls and this issue of walls and building walls. How can we tear down the walls? And this issue of building walls instead of, I just never understood if this is the land of opportunity, the Statue of Liberty, how can we be so limited and say you can't come here when we are a nation of immigrants? So this issue of building walls, how can we break down barriers? And how can we come together as Americans? So thank you. I really appreciate it. So we talked about all the issues. We talked about the monsters. We talked about the divisions that's going on. So what can we do? What can we do? I believe we have to be mission-driven, mission-focused. And I'm a graduate of Springfield College. So again, as I shared with you earlier, I've never seen so many triangles in all my life. So when you think about the mission, I've never been to any other organization where folks know what the mission of the institution is. You know, spirit, mind, and body, and leadership. So we have to ask ourselves, why are you here? What is your purpose? Can you name and can you operationalize, put into practice your values? How do you promote hope? How do you ensure that whatever environment you're in is protective? There's a protective factor. There's a safe haven. How do we create healing spaces? So I'm glad you asked that question. And I just want to tell you, remember your ABCs. Here's a quote by Frederick Douglass, and it says, it's easier to build strong children than to prepare broken men. So I believe, I do a lot of youth work. I believe that just brings me hope. But I think we need people at all levels. So again, remember your ABCs. Number 1, awareness. Number 2, balance. And number 3, connections. ABC. Another acronym for ABC would be always be caring. People don't care how much you know, but they know how much you care. So awareness. And I believe that if you're not aware of something, that's what you trip over. So how do you become aware when you are stressed? For me, I feel it in my neck. You know, I walk like this. My wife said, what's going on? Because I feel it, the tension. So how do you become aware when you're stressed? In this line of work that you're doing, what are the personal costs? What are the professional costs? And it's important that you are aware of your strengths, not just focusing on your challenges, but also strengths, your emotions, the resource levels, and the limits of your school, of your department, realizing that you cannot do it all. You cannot work in isolation. It truly takes a team. All right, I told you I'm going to put you guys to work. So what's the significance of this picture as it relates to awareness? Janae, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to look on the chat too. So thank you, Seamus. Knowing what you can become, how you see yourself is how the world sees you. Maturity, seeing yourself stronger than you are. Self-perception is vital. So maturity. So let's see, there's something else I just wanted to comment on here. Is there consistency? So you may see yourself as a very docile, but people say, man, you bit my head off. You know, I like working with young people, and, you know, young people, they say some very great things, you know, very surprising and very insightful, astute comments. So this issue of, even though you are young, and I'm so glad to see the young people participating in marches and social activism and peaceful protests, of really saying there is greatness in you. There's greatness in you, Springfield College students, and we are counting on you to make this place a better world than we found it. So self-awareness, what are your triggers? What are your hot spots? What pushes your buttons? You know, so it's very important that you have awareness so you don't respond out of pain or scapegoat others. Also, beating a key part of self-care is not beating yourself up emotionally. So then you're disillusioned or just get to the point where you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. I share with my students the importance of halts. And I am not the same if I'm hungry. You know, you see those Snicker commercials, right? So this issue of being hungry, angry, lonely, tired, or stressed. You can't do your best work. So the importance of being aware, the importance of balance, just like that triangle, 3 equilateral sides, the halts, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, or stressed, really being aware of your emotions so you can bring and be your very best self. We talked about awareness. Now we want to talk about balance. So how do you create balance from your job, not making your job your life, cannot do it all and burn candles at both ends? So again, right into the chat, what are some activities you do to renew, refresh, rejuvenate yourself, retool? What is meaningful for you? Particularly ladies will say retail therapy, but I'm talking about something that doesn't cost a lot, you know. So some people might say I need to get a massage, I go for a walk, nature, gardening, hiking, meditation, mindfulness. So what is activities that you do to rejuvenate? Janaea, I'm turning to you again.
Okay, I see prayer, making time for friends and family, staying hydrated, walk my dogs, time with friends, hike, music, walk my dog, arts and crafts, sleep and prayer, run. I put naps.
Awesome. So these all can promote peace and hope and healing in moving from just surviving to thriving. When you get on that plane, they say put your own oxygen mask on first, because then if you can't breathe and you're trying to help other people out, now they got to take care of other people and take care of you as well. So an empty tank will take you exactly nowhere. So you have to prioritize this time. And working with professionals who are social workers, many people know what to do, but really prioritizing and taking the time to do it is altogether different. So some people sing, read, the importance of keeping a journal. How many people keep a journal? Some people, I heard mention a prayer in spirituality, meditation and mindfulness. You know, someone realizing that, you know, there's a higher power that I can turn to, that I'm not in this world all by myself. Photography, knowing when to step back, eating well, nourishment, getting sufficient sleep. Remember what I said: hungry, angry, lonely, tired, or stressed. Self-care is giving the world the best of you instead of what's left of you. I'm a quote guy, so quotes bring me very good inspiration, affirmations, inspirational readings, light movies, and humor. Now, some people, their self-care is horror movies, but I don't like to be scared half to death. You know, and I got to go home and check my shower, pull back the shower curtain, and look under the bed. So some people, that's your, you know, you got to do you. But for me, I need light movies, humorous movies, prioritizing time for relaxation, recreation, vacation, and enjoyable activities. And again, here is the power of prayer and spirituality. May not be your cup of tea, but for so many people, this gives their life meaning. There's a reason, the source of strength, a source for hope. And this can help them bring order to chaotic and stressful times. So we're looking at, some people talked about spending time with family, sense of humor, thinking about safety. Safety is not just physical safety, but psychological safety. Being able to tell the truth, being able to not worry about being talked down, belittled, the use of sarcasm, or humiliated. So really making sure that there's safety, interacting, respecting the wishes of families. Education is a protective factor, and attending workshops like this, investing in you, taking time to just rest and say, man, how can I heal? I'm going, but how can I rest and really take care of myself? Because if I don't take care of myself, I'm no good to anyone else. So we looked at A, awareness. We looked at B, balance. And now we're looking at C, connections. So who is in your inner circle? And I really love this quote: you are allowed to let people in and then revoke their access. A one-time pass doesn't mean an all-time pass. So I think that's very vital, very inspiring quote. I love Maya Angelou. She says, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Also, Maya Angelou talks about, I don't trust people who don't love themselves. You tell me I love you. There's an African saying that says, be careful when a naked person offers you a shirt. Leo Buscaglia wrote a book on love. I think this is very important. So many times we look at the big things and worry about the big things, but too often we underestimate the power of a touch, a smile, a kind word, a listening ear, an honest compliment, or the smallest act of caring, all of which has the potential to turn a life around. So I just want to just pause here. And we have several more slides to go. I know we're going to have time for question and answer, but I want you to write into the chat someone who inspired you, someone who motivated you, someone who did something seemingly small but made a big difference. You don't have to name that person, but what is it that that person said or did that sort of inspired you towards greatness? Someone who saw something in you that you didn't even see in yourself. All right, so I'm going to pause here. and just ask. You can put that in the chat. I feel like I'm in class. I'm putting you all to work here.
I see Maya Angelou, Dr. Cooper, my elementary school teacher. He basically motivated me to become who I am today. My sister, my captains, they always inspire us to do better and move forward. My surgeon told me I had the potential to do many great things. My mentor, my mom always being positive. Professor, I can't pronounce her last name. Corsi. My mom, teachers and parents. My father, Ted France.
So what's interesting, it's important to name these folks, but what did they say? What did they do? Because I'm convinced that what was said to you will also be a source of inspiration for the young people or people that you meet every single day. A former boss who believed in me and actually recommended that I apply to be the president of Springfield College, Dick Miller. And here she is. The questions, well, what are you so damn scared of? So someone that will hold you accountable, when you're fearful. And I think we really need someone in my doctoral program, they called it a critical friend. Not someone who's just going to pat you on the back and say, you're great, but someone who's going to tell you the truth, tell you the real deal. Say, Anthony, you were wrong. You need to apologize, So not just someone who's going to pat you on the back, but someone who's going to be real, that have your back, wants you to be better and do better. My best friend taught me to have permission to fail and deserve forgiveness. A recent graduate told me I was an inspiration to be a better teacher. He held my feet to the fire when I wasn't given my full potential. He held me accountable, encouraged me to lean into the tough conversation, which taught me to be and do better. So Brene Brown, I'm sure you heard of Brene Brown. She says, clarity is kindness. So, you're not doing any favors, but you're giving people the opportunity to grow and not just patting folks on the back. So these are all good. My goodness, you all inspiring me. My Latin teacher kept telling me I was smart. Oh, hi, Natalie. How you doing? Offering to simply listen without trying to fix my problems. All right, you guys might disagree, but I think that's a guy thing. Where instead of, I just want you to listen. You don't have to solve it. I think we're just so interested. Showed me how to help others always. When I was a teenager, I was in a room with Maya Angelou, and I didn't know it was her. Showed me how to help others always. So thank you. I want to thank you for sharing, and I'm convinced that this same attributes, these same people that inspired you, this will also promote peace and hope and healing for the conditions that we are confronting today. All right. Here is another hero of mine, and we're looking at C. We're talking about connections, but also what's in our control. So what are things that I can influence or make a difference in? Nelson Mandela, we can change the world and make it a better place. It is in your hands. So what are things that are in our control? And we have to interrupt our inner critic. So many of you talked about people who saw something in you and said, man, I don't think I can do this. Who knows if President Cooper would have applied to Springfield College, but saying you should apply, and now she's beloved here at Springfield College, and everyone loves President Cooper, and we're moving forward. So this interrupting your inner critic is this stinking thinking. We have to be mindful of our words. I could never, I'm so, it's interesting. People will say, I'm not good at math. But you rarely hear people say, well, I'm not good at reading, I'm not good at writing, but for some reason, and my mom is not good at math, my dad's not good at math, we're just not math people. But we realize that what's in our control, and if you work at it, you can get good at anything. So talk to yourself. Don't beat yourself up. That stinking thinking of how would you talk to your friend? The importance of journaling. And one thing I love about journaling is, you've been in tough spots before, and sometimes you get in situations you say, woe is me, how do I get out of this? The beauty of a journal is looking when you're in those tough corners, tough spots before, and you were able to get out of it before. And if you did it then, guess what? You can do it again. So in our control, the importance of breathing, mindfulness, touch, movement, activity. Again, that triangle, spirit, mind, and body. So as I close, before I open up for questions, I just want to say to you the story, the Starfish Story. A young girl was walking along the beach, upon which thousands of starfish had been washed upon the shore from a terrible storm. When she came to eat starfish, she would pick it up and throw it back into the ocean. You're always going to have some critics. So she had been doing this for a time when a man approached her and said, little girl, why are you doing this? Look at this beach. You can't save all these starfish. You can't begin to make a difference. The girl was determined and did not quit. After a few moments, she bent down, picked up another starfish, and hurled it as far as she could into the ocean. She looked up at the man and replied, I made a difference to that one. So I want to say to you, in the midst of this global pandemic, the trauma of racial unrest, you have it within you to go out and make a difference. We have to keep the faith and keep hope alive. Don't just focus on the problems. It's better to light a candle than just curse the darkness and talk about what we can't do. But we need folks who are optimistic instead of pessimistic. I asked my students in the first year seminar class, are you optimistic or pessimistic about the state of our country and what's going on in our world? And I was just so relieved and inspired when they said, our generation, we're going to move forward to solve societal ills. And we're going to really come together, really take a stand against racism, and we're going to be the change that makes a difference. So that was very inspiring for me. So I want to share with you, keep the faith, keep hope alive. It's better to light a candle than curse the darkness. Be the change that lessens the suffering that people face with inequality, marginalization, poverty, and disenfranchisement. Remain hopeful even in seemingly hopeless and bleak situations. Again, as we keep the faith and keep hope alive, just because people do not see your worth, your value does not decrease based on their inability to see your worth. I love this slide because everyone wants to be successful. But we have to realize that there's a cost to be the boss. There's a cost. And, people say, well, that person's an overnight success, but there were years in the making. So there are going to be some sacrifices. There are going to be some critics. There are going to be some doubts. There are going to be some competition, late nights, hard work. But I'm here to tell you that with persistence, it will pay off, that you will reach your goal. Don't be weary in well-doing, but keep on keeping on. President Barack Obama says, the future rewards those who press on. I don't have time to feel sorry for myself. I don't have time to complain. I'm going to press on. I got to put Michelle in here too, First Lady Michelle Obama, and she talks in her book, Becoming, let's invite one another in. Maybe then we can begin to fear less, to make fewer wrong assumptions, to let go of biases and stereotypes that unnecessarily divide us. Maybe we can better embrace the ways that we are the same. It's not about being perfect. It's not about where you get yourself in the end. There's power in allowing yourself to be known and heard, in owning your unique story, in using your authentic voice, and there's grace. So let me move this out of the way so I can see here. In hearing others, this is, for me, is how we become. Last but not least, Leela Watson says, if you've come to help me with, you're wasting your time. But if you've come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. Here are some great resources. So happy to know that in March, Dr. Ibrahim X. Kendi will be here on the campus of Springfield College. And here are some other great resources that I wanted to share with you all. And here is my contact information. Love to hear your thoughts. Make sure you fill out the evaluation. I'd love to hear your comments. Hopefully that this has been an inspiring session, allowing you time to process, heal, have hope. And now I will take questions, comments, thoughts, and ideas. Thank you. Hope this was helpful.
Wonderful, Tony. Thank you so much, sir.
Well, thank you, John. Any questions? Any comments? Any thoughts? Was this helpful? This resonate with folks? I know I put in a lot of information. There's the link for the Google evaluation there. Very informative. I learned a lot, just what I needed. I love your attitude. Thank you. Very helpful. Thank you. Yeah, we're on the front line. So this issue of how do you sort of heal and how do you sort of take care of yourself and put your own oxygen mask on first, because, before you know it, if something were to happen to you, it's, oh, poor Tony. Oh, man, he was such a hard worker. And then life goes on. So how do you sort of prioritize your own healing and do some great work? All right. Any questions, Janaea, or?
No, just a comment. It says, thanks for this. It's a great reminder to not lose sight of our personal healing amidst these crises. This was so needed.
All right. All right. Well, I saw 70 folks were on. I see folks are signing off, but I'm here. And I really like question and answers because it keeps me on my feet, keeps me on my toes, and more stuff will come out, with the question and answer. So if you have any questions, who's going to be the brave, courageous soul to start us off? And if not, maybe self-care is to say, hey, listen, I got these, few minutes. We don't have to force it if you don't need to.
I have something.
All right, Sharice.
Hi.
Hey, Sharice, I just want to applaud your hard work and the Office of Multicultural Affairs, and this is really tremendous. I don't know, with all of the talks that were going on this summer, and for this seat at the table to come forward, the work of Felicia and Calvin, and I know you were, rolling up your sleeves, doing some amazing work. So this might be a moneymaker. All the thousands of people signed up. We should be able to generate some income, from this. But this is really, really phenomenal. So I want to thank you for your hard work behind the scenes, in front of the scenes. So yes, ask your question.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to see what we can do next year. We're learning so much and we're growing. And it takes a community, and we have this beautiful, huge community. So thank you all who have been a part of that. I was just thinking about sort of, this idea of prioritizing our own care, which is really important. And, we're all responsible for doing that, right? But at the same time, we can also participate in sort of creating a culture that gives other people more permission to feel like they get to prioritize themselves, if that makes sense. And so, what can we do as community members to give each other more permission to prioritize ourselves, give each other more permission to mess up, to take space, to need time off, to do self-care? What does it look like for us to create a culture of that on this campus and beyond?
Yes. So thank you, Sharice. A very a good question. And this issue of extending grace, forgiveness, love, compassion that we're so willingly able to give to others, why not give that to ourselves? So in this presentation, I talked about we are our own worst critic. We're so hard on ourselves. There's a great book by Don Miguel Ruiz, and he talks about the 4 agreements. And in the 4 agreements, he talks about being impeccable with your word is the first agreement. And not only the word, we know that words have power, but also what are the words that we say to others, but also what are the words that we say to ourselves. So when I'm talking about that inner critic, so what is our self-talk? I can't do it. I'll never be able to. So we have to be mindful of our words. Our words have power. There's death and life all in the power of the tongue. So that's one thing. Also, since I'm on this role, don't take it personal is another agreement. Don't make assumptions, because if they do this, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. Just go to sleep. It never really comes to all that stuff that we have in our mind. And then lastly is the importance of always doing your best. The best you can do is the best you can do, and the best you can do is good enough. So this issue of doing your best, and then, man, I can sleep good at night because I can't, I see Chris there, the athlete, you know what I mean? And Chris is saying, hey, listen, I'm going to give it my all, and then that's the best I can do. Win, lose, or draw, I didn't leave anything on the field, so always doing your best. I also like what you said, too, about self-care, because I think the self-care just isn't on the person, on the personal. But I think we have to create institutions. We have to look at this on an institutional basis. And I just know, in working, there's some people, if you do a good job, working in education, working wherever you work, if you do a good job, and instead of people being held accountable who are not doing a good job, the person who's doing a good job, they get rewarded. Get rewarded with what? They get more work, and the people who are nasty and ornery and what have you and don't do a good job, their assignment is well. And they're like, listen, I get paid just like you get paid. So they don't give me the assignment. So they're rewarded for their inefficiency, for not doing a good job. So I think self-care, also we need to look at institutions, and we need to hold folks accountable. You're doing a job. I expect you to get the job done. So self-care, many times we look at self-care and we look at the person and saying, what are you doing? But we also have to look at the conditions, the work environment. And we know that the job can be stressful, can be hard. So what can we do to take things off of folks' plate and not reward folks who are competent because we burn them out? So then how can we hold folks accountable who aren't doing the job, and we know them, but we just don't want to have that courageous conversation. So I think that's another aspect that's really not talked about when we're looking at self-care. Thanks, Sharice. Great question. Probably more than what you asked for, but awesome. Any other questions?
Thank you so much.
All right, I see something in the chat here. I practice self-care daily. I ask myself, how can I serve others when I'm not taking care of myself? Not only will I be doing a disservice to my clients, but to myself. So I make sure that every day I take my time myself while at work and at home. So when you think of that lion and the cat picture, and you say, oh, I'm just so innocent, and then you're getting feedback from people, and they're saying, man, you bit my head off. And many times we deflect, that person, they don't know what they're talking about. But if you're getting the same consistent feedback all the time, you have to ask yourself, is this true? Am I doing something unintentionally that could be offensive or harmful to others? And then I have to have awareness in saying, man, and then own up, fess up, and say, I apologize. So not everybody else, is wrong all the time, but we have to be accountable and say, hey, listen, maybe there's a different way that I can handle, a different way that I can do something differently. All right. Other questions? Other comments?
Somebody had a question, but I didn't know if it was actually like for you or for Sharice.
Okay.
But it just says like, my question is, how do you stop apologizing for things out of your control?
Well, I'll answer that. I don't want to. Usually, I'm known for putting people on the spot, but I don't want to put Sharice on the spot. So this issue is being hard on yourself, and I think it's very important. Again, as I mentioned earlier, that we extend that same grace, that same kindness. Many times, we treat other people better than we treat ourselves. So having that love, compassion, care, concern that we extend to others, giving ourselves grace. To treat ourselves with kindness Also, stop apologizing for things out of your control. So I think it's very important when you have to hold folks accountable. And I think also you have to have the courage to have these very critical conversations, because people will say, gee, you kept laughing. I didn't think it was an issue. And, partially, no matter how thin you slice it, there's another side. So we just can't just blame other folks, but we also have to be accountable. And if folks have to own up. And I think there's a point in time where if you're apologizing all the time, you're going to get to the point where you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you might just blow off. All those little things began to build up, and then you say, man, I can't take it anymore. So I think you also need to be truthful. And remember, clarity is kindness, and not allowing people to be firm and assertive, and not allowing people to run over you. All right, good people. If there aren't any questions, I don't want to just hold you just for the sake of holding you, but I hope you fill out the evaluation. I want to thank you again, Felicia, Cherise, for having this seat at the table. I hope that this workshop was helpful and beneficial in helping us really heal, not only personally, not only as an institution, but hopefully we can heal as a nation. That's my hope. So thank you very much, good people. All the best. Look forward to attending future Seat at the Table events this week. Thank you.